What's good, everybody? It's your boy Demetrius behind the lens, and I am back for another episode of the Creative Vibe Podcast, episode 006. And I'm here with a longtime producer, MC, and creator of Bangin' Tables, the community for producers, my guy from the BX, Raydo. Raydo, what's good, baby?
What it is, man? What's going on, y'all, man? How's everything, man?
I'm good, man. Here at the home studio here in London. You know what I mean? Back on this side of the pond. You know, filmed a few episodes out in New York City, and so now we're back in England. And I'm just happy to have you as my guest, so we can tell your story briefly and get it out to the world. You know what I'm saying? That's what the Creative Vibe Podcast is for. So yeah.
Well, thank you for having me, and shout outs to everybody in UK, man. And let's get it popping, man. Let's go.
Yeah, definitely, man. Well, I've known you for quite a while. Yeah, I've known you for quite a while, kind of on and off throughout my tenure behind the lens. But obviously, I started with your partner, Steve, Steady Styles, a very long time ago. He was one of my first mentors. And, you know, I've always known about you, but now we have a chance to tell the story. So if you don't mind, let's just rewind the clock back to the beginning and give me a brief intel of where how you, your early years of your life, and then what led you into hip hop. What was the first interactions with hip hop that allowed you to become or want to pursue a career in producing and rapping?
Well, make a long story short, I was born in Dominican Republic. So I came here when I was 6 years
Shout out to
old.
DR. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Shout out to DR. I came here when I was 6 years old, around 1981. Hip hop and crack was pretty much the main things happening around me. So, you know, I gravitated more towards hip hop. I was more of a kid that was already into like drawing and stuff like that. So I was already creative very young, and hip hop kind of gave me more in depth 3D creative stuff to do. And, you know, whether it was breakdancing, I started breakdancing. I got into like making beats for people, banging on tables in classrooms and stuff like that. The first hip hop act that I ever saw that ever inspired me to even get involved was Curtis Blow. I seen him perform when I was in middle school. So I got exposed to that. Yeah, I got exposed to that early, man. You know, a lot of rappers were around the hood too that were already having records out. Hip hop wasn't $1 million business, so these guys were still in the hood. So I used to see them all the time, and it was inspiring to me. It was more about it wasn't about being rich, because the people that have more money really was the drug dealers. Drug dealers were really the guys that have money. Rappers didn't really have money. It was looked at like, oh, y'all just rappers, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, drug dealers were the main guys, you know, when I was coming up, you know what I'm saying? So they're the ones that really look like stars, you know what I'm saying? And then eventually, you know, hip hop went through a little evolution, and I kept growing with it. And then I started really wanting to rap when I saw Big Daddy Kane, and heard Big Daddy Kane rather, when he dropped Ain't No Half Step and Raw. When I heard those records, I was like, wow, I want to try this. Yeah, I want to try this. I got inspired to try it. So I did that, and then I did demos and stuff like that. And I went to high school, and I got with different cliques of people that I was doing music with, and, you know, because a lot of people were inspired by me because they saw me doing it. So they was wanting to get down. So a lot of people, I went through a lot of different cliques of people that wanted to do music and stuff. And, you know, I was growing up in the hood in the Bronx, man, through crack era and everything. So the main thing I wanted to do was to leave the Bronx. So when I got to high school, I got the opportunity to go to a high school in Manhattan, which was a high school of arts and stuff like that. So I was able to at least get out from being in the hood, because I wasn't trying to go to high school in the hood too. I had enough about my whole middle school was with crack in the back, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it was like, you know, crack.
Well, it was a crazy time. I mean, it was stuff everywhere. I mean, even me as a kid, you know, growing up in the 90s, you know, born in 87. It was everywhere. I mean, we used to run around and, it'd be like needles on the floor we had to watch out for, and crack capsules that I used to collect and get in trouble for having them because the colors were just, I didn't know what they were. I was just like, what are these things? So it was definitely a crazy time to, I guess you coming from DR, learning American culture at that level at that time, and then hip hop emerging at the same time must have been quite an experience for someone like yourself. So that's it's quite
Well, I mean,
interesting.
at the same time, I came from a house in DR that was made by my dad and his brothers. So it was handmade house that it was like a little mini house, and we
Mm,
didn't have a bathroom. We had a bathroom that was outside. It was basically a hole on the ground that was connected to the
hmm
sewage, and it was
mm,
bugs and stuff like that. So I came from poor. You know what I'm saying? So coming to New York, it was an upgrade. You feel me? So
yeah, yeah,
that was a
definitely.
big
So,
You know what I'm saying? So, but then at the same time, you had other obstacles, but those obstacles didn't really affect me enough because I was already poor. So I was just trying to make it anyways, you
mm,
know? So in New York, I had to learn how to speak English and everything. And hip hop actually helped me with that too, you know, because I was listening to it every day. So it was something that really helped me with my vocabulary as I became an MC. I was always reading dictionaries and digging up words and trying
hmm
to find different words to rhyme with other words. And it helped me also in life, you know what I'm saying? Listening to artists like KRS-One and stuff like that. He was always speaking about, vegetarian and eating healthy and
Word. How to Eat to
just
Live
stuff
by
like that.
the
That
Honorable
rappers
Elijah
weren't
Muhammad. Yeah, that was a good book.
they weren't trying to keep you stupid. When I was growing up, yeah, when I was growing up, rappers were telling you to go to college and get an education. You know what I'm saying? Like
hmm
it wasn't like everybody was just depending on rapping. You know.
So, at what point did you get with Steve and click up? How did that all come about? How did you
Well,
develop the
well, me
hard
and
hits team?
Steady, yeah, I was in high school, man. I was in high school, and what happened was that when I met Steady, I was when my mother was still alive, and then when my mother passed
Mm.
away, I started moving around the city, around the Bronx a lot. So I was living from relative to relative, from couch to couch, and then me and him were linked up in '93, and then we started working on demos because we linked up when I was in my aunt's house. So he got that number somehow, and we linked up and we started doing demos and started doing our own production and dealing with a lot of different other artists and promoting our stuff heavy. That was like the first time too that me and him was really getting into it, doing demos and shopping and stuff like that. And we did the Hard Hits Productions and Hard Hits, publishing that is
Mm.
still going today. And yeah, man, but Steady, that's my brother, But he always was working with other artists too. Remember, he was a producer, so we had what I always wanted to do was to have a community of producers. So it was Hard Hits, and it was him and me and his brother at one point. Rest in peace, Tony. You know what I'm saying? And we were all making
Word.
beats
Rest in
under.
peace, Tone. That was my guy. That was my guy, man.
Yeah,
He's the one that brought me to
yeah,
Steve, man. We met in Job Corps, so without
but
him, I wouldn't have met Steve, and I wouldn't have met you, and had all those positive male influences at
there
that time.
you go. There you go. Tone, man, because Tone was a producer too. He made beats and he was an artist too. So
Tone was a renaissance man. He was doing videos, graphics, man. He inspired me so much, man. He
he
inspired
was
me so
passionate,
much.
man. He was passionate. He was just like me. That's how I was. I was always trying to
Yeah,
video stuff and create stuff. Trying to move on. I was always trying to act like a record label on my own.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, he always had me in the creative vibe. No pun intended. But it was always like, damn, okay, like we shooting a video, we lighting it. He was always studying stuff and everything, and it was a real blessing, man, to have him as a friend. So,
Yeah,
um,
no. Shout outs to him. I didn't get to interact with him too much, but I did have a couple of songs that we did together and stuff like that. But
mhm.
he was my brother's brother, so it was all good. Yeah, man. And and after what happened, and so what happened is after Hard Hits kind of slowed down because Steady Style started having moving around the city on his own. He started moving around. He moved to Texas and in Florida. So I created bangingtables.com after the fact because I started like kind of like slowing down a little bit with my artistry as an MC because I started noticing that my own child started getting into music. So I was like, let me take a
Mm.
back seat, help my kid do his thing, and my kid started doing his music, and I started leaning more towards the production to just help and just focus on his stuff. And
Mm.
he's been doing his thing, and now he has a whole new sound. His name is Raymundo 4C. So everybody out there in London, check out
Hmm.
my son. He got some good R&B music because
That's
with that
dope.
hip hop feel. Yeah, so he's doing
That's
his
dope.
thing out
It's
there.
good. We need R&B. We need R&B back in the game. So Banging
Yeah,
Tables,
yeah.
though, tell me a little bit about So Banging Tables was made to help a community of producers, basically, right? I remember
Yeah,
the idea when you first came
yeah,
out with it. Yeah,
banging tables is pretty much, banging tables is every producer makes beats banging on tables. So that's the essence of production.
100%.
So, so that's really what I was doing. I interviewed a lot of producers, Dame Grease, Ski Beats, Static Selector, Crisis.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember seeing you everywhere. At one point, you were like just at different events. I even think like I was rolling with D
I
Dub and
was
I'd run into you
everywhere.
here. Or
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
everywhere. I was everywhere. You have to make your point. You have to show people that you're about it. So I have to make sure I was about it. I did it all, man. I breakdanced as a kid. I battled, not just breakdance on my own in a room somewhere. I used to battle in front of a stage with the whole school
mm.
watching us going back. I used to sell CDs in the street, making money, selling my music. I've sold beats to people, you know what I'm saying? I created bangingtables.com to give light to
So,
the
so, so,
producers.
so let me ask you a question about the selling the music versus the streaming. Which one do you feel has benefited the artist, and maybe in which one felt better for you? Because streaming now you have to do so many numbers just to get a little bit of money, whereas selling your music directly to the consumer, though you can't reach as many people at one time. I'm guessing monetarily, it felt better, maybe. I mean, from your experience, because you've been around for every era.
Regardless of the fact, no matter what, no, regardless of the fact that no matter what industry, you still have to. The one thing that is always going to set you apart from everybody else is promotion. So you have to make sure that
Hmm.
you promote yourself a lot, a lot, a lot. So you know, to the point where you get yourself sick of yourself, you have to promote. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
consistency in promoting is always going to give you an audience. It's always going to give you a core audience. So that's one thing I do. I do streaming with my music as far as like my projects as an MC. I have them streaming, but as a
Okay.
producer, I have my projects on bangingtables.com that you can purchase for $5.
That's dope. And make sure y'all go out
You
there and
know,
go check out bangingtables.com.
it's
No
all
matter if you're
beats.
out here in London or
Yeah,
worldwide.
yeah, yeah. And I have free projects there that people can just download. Like all my Army Through One projects are free. All my Raydo remixes are free. All my dues, bigs, and those all free to download. And but the beats, that's the only thing you have to you can purchase there. The beats instrumental projects that's called Beats in Color. They're called Beats in Color. So I have Beats
Mm,
in Color 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that I just dropped
that's
last
dope.
May. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
dope.
I'm just out
Yeah.
here. I'm just creating. I love creating things, man, because that's what keeps. When people don't do something and they just rely on other people to do things for them, that's what makes them want to quit. But when you
Hmm.
create your own thing and you pushing your own thing, you are your own momentum. So if you stop, nothing's happening. You know what I'm
Yeah, and it
saying?
feels
So
good to work and tweak and curate and work on your stuff. I mean, and it's all brick by brick anyway. And times change. You change with the times. You keep adding.
you gotta
You
listen.
subtract a
Like I
little
tell
bit.
everybody, you gotta have fun doing what you do. If you have
Hmm.
fun doing what you do, you're gonna be okay.
Definitely, definitely, because you connect with it, man. It comes easy, and you develop a passion for it, and that's where the best work I think comes from is from people who are passionate about
Even
their
if,
vision.
even if it's not your best work, but as long as it's work, because what it is,
100%.
you want to have consistency.
Well, you're gonna need that definitely. That's for
Consistency is the
sure.
most thing. You don't have to be perfect, but consistency can create a look, and there's
Hmm.
already something that is solid and people are expecting to see and get repetitive over and over and over and over again. People, your video, like somebody can have a video show that's not as good as in pixels as another person, but if they're consistent,
Hmm.
their show will be known for that show that is cool with no pixels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It eventually develops its reputation, and people respect that. And that's
And
why I
people
try
be,
to take my time with this and
yeah.
build it bit by bit. You know, so
You just gotta do
I
your own
totally
path,
agree.
man. You gotta create your own path, and that's the way that I've kept on staying motivated in the things that I do is by creating my own paths and just pushing along, not waiting for somebody to give me an opportunity. That's why I created Raydo remixes, and I do acapellas and create beats around them. That's why I went and
Mm,
created Army Through One series, where I went and I grabbed MCs and I in exchange. And I took them to the studio. I paid for the studio sessions. They didn't have to pay for the studio sessions. Some of them were fortunate enough to have their own studio set up, so they did it in their house. But I
mm.
paid for most of them, their studio sessions. I went and I did the video and I promoted them and promote them and help them
Wow.
with the momentum. This is what I've been trying to do. You know what I'm saying? With the Army Through One series, I did it as a mixtape series, and then I did it as a video series. And it's all about me helping other people promote themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's over
Yeah.
my production, which is what helps me.
Hmm.
But but it's about helping each other as a
Yeah, create a
community.
platform and synergizing that energy. Yeah, and that's basically what this podcast is for: is to help the creatives, that don't get that shine, that mainly the people from behind the scenes, usually the producers, the directors, the cinema photographers, and everyone else that helps the final product look good. This show is here to kind of tell their story and let them know the journey they've been on and whatever else they want to get out to the people. So I've always respected that with the banging tables thing. You creating that community and doing that. I thought that was a great way to transition your journey from post hard hits situation. Obviously, you guys are still a team, but life brings you in different ways, and you were able to find a lane that was able to help inspire your creativity once again and
Me and
stay in that
Steady
creative
on the
mindset.
phone every other 2 days. Me and Steady is on the phone. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't stop. My brother, he been in Florida for a few years now, but every other day we on the phone. Every morning I'm texting my brothers, good morning. You feel me? Like
And I find that a
it's all
beautiful thing because you guys met
it's
back
about
what, like
it's
in
about staying
'87.
tight. You gotta
Yeah,
stay tight with your
yeah, and you guys have been around since the '80s. Since I was born. You guys have been together, so it's kind of cool that years later I could come and you know being just born and you guys meeting on your journey, and then later together we can sit here have a discussion. I can interview you and put your story out there. We can kind of vibe and you know influence each other and things like that. I find that to be pretty profound.
right now.
I do have to ask. Yeah,
He's
yeah,
had
go
his
ahead.
own shit right now too over there. New York. He
Yeah,
got his
yeah,
own label out there. He's starting to like he's doing his thing. We all stay motivated, man. You know,
yeah. No,
that's
definitely, definitely.
we all stay
Um,
motivated.
So I gotta ask though, what are your top five producers of all time that you could say played a big role in inspiring Raydo on the beat? You know what I'm saying?
Man, well, producers that I look, my main producers that I always loved is DJ Premier, Easy Mo B, Pete Rock, um, the Bomb Squad from Public Enemy. Um,
Dope.
who else? I don't even. There's so many of them. Molly Moore. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
Marley Marl.
Marley
Yeah.
Moore, he's a Molly Moore. He changed the whole game for producers. So he's one of those guys that we were able to grab a kick and a snare from any drum beat instead of just using the drum beat loop. We were able to
Or,
take the kick and the snare from a drum beat loop and make our own drums out of those things.
yeah.
So he changed the game for us.
That was a great thing. Yeah, that was the great thing about like the golden era and before was like the very tangible, hands-on feel of wiring and tape decking and putting in tissue and recording something on the radio and then trying to loop stuff. And, obviously technology makes things so much easier and faster, but there's appreciation for all of the effort and struggle of the DJ and the crates and having a car and bringing it in, and
I
unless you're
don't
from
hang
that era,
anybody. I don't hang anybody for being born in the 2000s, man. You know, you're born into what you're born into, and if that's all
yeah,
you know, then that's all you know, and this is how you learn it, and that's how you learn it. You really can't judge people from the time that they're born. It's not their fault that they grew up when
yeah,
DJs don't have to carry crates. You know, it's not their
yeah.
fault. So I don't
And
really
I just think
go.
it's great. I think it's great when they can appreciate it though, and you guys in the past and the future can connect, because that's where the
Well,
power comes in. That's where,
that's the only thing though, D. Right? Because it's like they really can't feel that struggle.
yeah, they can't feel
So
it different.
you
You got
know,
to go through it.
yeah. You gotta just they have to be curious enough to go and look at tapes and
Yeah,
really want to know about the culture, and that's really the
yeah.
difference. They have to internally want to know. You can't
That's
make
how I feel about
people.
yeah. That's how I feel about
You
photographers.
know,
You know,
you
you
can't
got to
make
want to
people
go
do it.
back. Yeah, yeah. You want to go back
Yeah,
and
you have
know
to
what it's like to process
you
film,
Demetrius have to
and
decide. Let me sit down here on this Saturday night, and instead of watching a fucking movie of Fast and Furious, let me sit down and watch a documentary about past photographers. Like, it takes a whole different type of person to have that kind of passion about something, that
yeah,
instead of going out on a Friday night and enjoying the night with their boys, that you will sit down in your house instead and watch a documentary
yeah.
about the history of photography. It
Or
takes
just
a
be
whole different
such a
type
fan,
of
yeah.
person.
Or just be such a fan of the culture that you're out there just getting these shots and documenting for the next generation to see what happened. Because, you know, without the guys from the golden era and before, you know, the inception of hip hop, all of those great pictures that were taken, like you know, we got to be thank God for those people that decided that I'm going to shoot this, you know, and had a passion for it,
Yeah.
because that has
Yeah,
given us
and it's
reference
crazy
to the
because it'd be
time
like
before.
people that weren't even in the culture. It was people that had a camera. They had a passion
Hmm.
for a whole different thing, which was photography.
Yeah, yeah, and they captured
and
this thing
and
called hip hop.
yeah, and then all of a sudden there's some street kids that have a passion to do art on trains.
Hmm.
So that, and then all of a sudden those two passions of some street kids that like to do stupid, crazy looking art on trains. Then this photographer that has this passion for photography, and they meet
Yeah,
because now the interest is there. Now it's like, oh my God, what is this amazing shit that's happening in the
artwork.
book?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And then all of a sudden,
Yeah,
we have these books now that we can look back and be like, wow, somebody really have the passion in their heart to drive them to take these pictures that are now historic pictures.
yeah. And that's been the premise of my work, man. It's just to capture some of the great things that have happened in our time period, and that hopefully, you know, generations later, or even my ancestors later on, can benefit from it, can learn from it, can see these interviews and say, "Oh, wow, you know what? This guy Raydo, he had a dope story. Okay, this is where his work lays." And you know, now that everything's on the internet, it's going to be forever. So, you know, so this interview is great because someone down the line can now look and say, "Oh wow, you know, I learned about a producer from DR who came to New York and his story, and learn about that era." And you know, it's all about information. So you know, for me, I'm just very big on, you know, bringing those worlds together, because I think the youth still needs to learn from the generations before. I think it's very important because we kind of need each other, you know, to reference and to move forward. Um, so that's pretty
We are
dope.
all like, it's like in Marvel, right? Everybody has their own timeline.
Hmm.
You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? And we have these timelines. Like, you have your children now, right? Like, you have your own children now that you may not have had a good life, but then now you have a better understanding of life, and then you pass that better understanding to your neck, to your seeds, and now their better understanding continues to be better and better and better
And grow and
understanding.
grow. Hmm. Definitely. Well, listen, man, Rado, you know, time is of the essence. But I appreciate you coming on and being able to tell a part of your story. Um, you know, what you've done with banging tables, what you've done for me, just being an inspiration, and through connections with Steve, Steady Styles, and everybody. And you know, one thing I want to close out with is, what is one thing that you want the world to know about Rado? What is it that you want the world to remember you as? What is it that you want to leave behind?
Appreciate life, man. You only get it once. Do the best you can. Enjoy it the most you can. Do the most you can while it's here. and just have good intent. That's it.
All right, man. Well, I
Take nothing
appreciate you
with
coming on.
you take nothing with you, but the person that you were and the things you shared with people. That's all people remember you for.
Well, I think you're going to be remembered for being a great producer and a great father and spouse and son. So I think you've done your job definitely, and there's more to do, and who
You
knows
too.
what's
You
around the
too,
corner.
man. You too.
So
You're doing your thing too. This is another thing, and you are the same. You from the same cloth.
yeah, I appreciate. Yeah, I'm glad to be cut from that cloth, man, because that's without that cloth, man, the rest of the shirt ain't can't really be made. So once again, thank you, Raydo, for coming on. It's been long overdue, and we finally got a chance to sit down and talk. So yeah, man, and I
For the
will definitely
BX to
see you next time.
UK.
Word, BX to the UK, New York to London, you know what I'm saying? And then we going worldwide with it, man. So thank you so much for coming on. This has been the Creative Vibe Podcast, man. Raydo, Demetrius Lens signing out.